Welcome to Nasdaq TradeTalks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. We're coming to you live from Money 2020 in Las Vegas, Nevada. Joining me for this segment, we have Kealan Lennon. He's the founder and CEO of CleverCards to discuss fintechs and payments in the EU. It's great to have you with us. Kealan, welcome to TradeTalks.
Thank you very much, Jill.
All right, you got it. We talk so much about solutions in the payment system, but what's broken about the international payment system that we're looking solutions for?
Yeah, well, I think the payment systems globally, there's a lot of broken networks between US networks, European networks, UK networks. It's fragmented. The one network all around the world that works is the MasterCard Visa network that connects literally the whole world together. In fact, it was something we were talking about at Davos this year about how does the world come together on one payment network, and really, it really is only the MasterCard or Visa network that connects the world together.
What should international companies be looking at in Ireland? Why should they be thinking about the region?
Yeah, well, I mean, Ireland is the technology capital of Europe. I mean, you know, the Irish government has done a phenomenal job bringing in the Metas and the LinkedIns and the Googles, and you know, and then in the payments world, it's Stripe that is the biggest payments company in Ireland, for the retail merchant side of it, and CleverCards, obviously, we're on the business side where we issue configurable digital MasterCards to businesses all across Europe.
So what brings Ireland to Las Vegas?
Well, you know, here is when you look at what's happening in the payment world, CleverCards is trying to do what Netflix did to movies, to digitally transform the credit and debit card industry. The banks that do that, they distribute 99% of the debit and credit cards all around the world, but they don't have the infrastructure that can do a Netflix-like digital transformation. So we're really here to show the banks what we've actually done in Europe with businesses that want these solutions in a cloud-based platform like CleverCards.
So tell me more about CleverCards. How many accounts do you have? What does the revenue look like? You know, who are some of the biggest companies that you're working with in Ireland?
Sure, so we're a digital payments platform, and we enable businesses and public sector organizations to issue what we call configurable digital MasterCards themselves, and they can send them to anyone, anywhere, anytime, instantly for them to download. As I said, we're based in Dublin in Ireland, the fintech capital of Europe. We launched the business in 2022 last year, and literally within the first 8 weeks we had 100,000 accounts signed up.
Wow.
So it was a pretty transformational growth, and it's been on a huge trajectory since. So, you know, businesses like the PwCs and the KPMGs of this world, and the Microsofts and the Aons and Fiserv, so all these multinational companies that are headquartered in Ireland have been the growth trajectory for CleverCards out of Ireland and throughout Europe.
So from the user perspective, nothing really changes. It feels like you're using a MasterCard or Visa.
No, very different. I mean, I think what inspired me about it, Jill, was I was on an Irish government trade mission over to China. And you know, the Far East and China is 10 years ahead.
Right.
Middle East is maybe 7 years ahead. Europe is 5 years ahead of the States. It's really, really interesting when it comes to payment and financial services, how the United States is normally way ahead of everybody in technology, but when it comes to payments, it's way behind. So, you know, last night, by way of example, I didn't get an Uber, but jumping out of the cab, I had to pay with my card. I couldn't pay with Apple Pay. So in the European sense, when you look at what happened after COVID and a fragmented workforce, you know, the younger generation that do everything on their mobile, they don't want plastic cards. So it's been pretty incredible, the growth that we've seen in Europe. And you know, it's very exciting in terms of the space that we're in.
Why do you think we've seen that leapfrog with Southeast Asia, with the Middle East, with the EU relative to the US? I mean, I'm even surprised the EU's 5 years ahead. Is it because we have these legacy institutions,
Yeah.
we have legacy central banks? There was no infrastructure in some of these parts of the world.
Yeah, I think it's not central banks. I think regulation is everywhere.
Right.
Okay. Digital transformation is conducive to better regulation because, you know, you start getting into biometrics and things like this on the phone, so it's much more safe and secure. Okay. So I don't think it's regulation. I think the embedded infrastructure that's there. Yeah, there are banking infrastructures that people are afraid to plug out the plugs. They don't know which light's going to go off. Okay, that's what happens in more developed economies. So I think that's probably at the heart of it. And you know, as you say, when you go right over to the Far East, which was our inspiration behind it, everybody pays on mobile. I mean, there's no plastic. I mean, when I was asked for my card last night to put in my PIN, I went, I haven't used my PIN in 3 years. I was afraid I was going to forget it. So I think that's one of the big changes. And you know, when you look to Europe, you know, the first spot from America is Ireland. And that's why it's, you know, it's got the best workforce, it's got a very educated workforce, we're known for innovation, it's got, you know, very favorable tax laws, we're English speaking, so we're the first stop for Europe, and hence that's where you get all of these technology companies it breeds innovation. You know, as I said, the Stripes have come out of the world on the acceptance side, and CleverCards has come out of the world on the card issuing side to enable governments and to enable businesses that want this solution and can't get it from the banks. It's very difficult for a bank to digitally transform a really old infrastructure, and that's what's happened, you know.
So it's more about integration.
Yeah, CleverCards is all cloud-based. It's very, very difficult, in fairness to the banks, it's very, very difficult to digitally transform a very old infrastructure. So CleverCards was built in the cloud, you know, so it's native, it's built for a modern user experience. I mean, you know, the younger generation do everything on their mobile, so you know that's what you need to build for, with beautiful user experiences, simple user experiences. And when you have thousands of employees all around Europe, I mean, you think back to what happened with Netflix and iTunes, and you know, when Steve Jobs said, I can put 1,000 songs in the phone, there used to be a plastic CD before that happened. But they're still sending out plastic cards. Until CleverCards said, well, we'll do the same thing as music. We'll do what iTunes did, we'll do what Netflix did. We'll make it configurable and digitally distributed and digitally consumed. So that's really what we're at. So it's you know, our mission is to transform how the debit card and credit card industry is stuck. And that's where we saw the opportunity.
All right, Kealan, appreciate the insight. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks. And thanks for joining me from Money 2020. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.